divinely revealed, 7 miraculous transitions guiding you towards your heavenly purpose. In the heart of St. Michael's Hollow, whispers of miracles reached an unprecedented fervor. Each week, as the sun set behind the historic chapel, locals gathered, their hearts open, their faith alive. What if, just what if, the divine was about to unveil itself in ways unimaginable? Clara, a devoted single mother, felt the world around her shift. She cradled her terminally ill son Liam in her arms, each breath of his lighter than the last, and worry began to cloud the faith she once held like an unshakable fortress. On a night steeped in prayer, when the urgency of the village reached a crescendo, Clara stood among her neighbors, her pleas rising like incense to the heavens. Lord, grant us a miracle. The pews vibrated, candles flickered with an unearthly glow. Suddenly, every flicker aligned with the rhythm of Clara's heartbeat, a divine symphony resonating within the chapel. Gasps filled the air as awe enveloped the gathering, doubt grappled with belief, and hope shimmered like a beacon amidst the shadows. Then, a mysterious elderly priest appeared, his robes whispering tales of ancient wisdom as he stepped through the chapel doors. Divine revelations are imminent, he declared, voice carrying an electric charge. Clara's heart raced. Could this be the moment her faith intertwined with a miracle? But skepticism clung to her, clawing at the edges of her spirit. Still, she couldn't help but feel the pull of something greater, something divine. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the week wore on, each day unfolded a miraculous transition that shook the foundations of Clara's beliefs and the entire village. First, a gentle, golden light danced over the chapel's altar one evening, bathing the faithful in warmth. Then the wind howled with voices of the past, recounting tales of struggles and redemption. Each moment felt like a divine nudge towards enlightenment, yet with each transition, troubling doubts snaked through Clara's heart. With heavy heartbeats and trembling voices, the villagers debated the meaning behind these happenings. Clara stood on the precipice of faith and fear, her son's life tipping delicately in the balance. Each episode marked her journey, illuminating truths and revealing aspects of her relationship with God she had never considered. The unity of the village began to fracture, with differing beliefs forming new paths of spiritual discord. Is my son's fate entwined with this divine plan? She pondered in the shadow of the altar, a crucifix casting its gaze upon her turmoil. The candles flickered again, as if in answer, igniting a surge of hope mixed with a paralysis of uncertainty. With her knees trembling against the cool stone, Clara sensed not only the weight of her prayers but also the power of divine purpose unfolding with every exquisite moment. What awaited her next? Would she find the miracle she sought, or would the relentless tides of doubt wash away the remnants of faith? As the chapel enveloped her in sacred silence, Clara held her breath, awaiting the divine response that seemed beyond the realm of human understanding. As dawn broke over St. Michael's Hollow, a golden light flooded Clara's small kitchen. The sun, a familiar symbol of hope and renewal, crept through the window, illuminating every corner. However, even this warmth couldn't chase away the chill of uncertainty that gripped her heart. She stirred her son's breakfast mechanically, lost in thought, each clatter of dishes echoing her inner turmoil. "Mommy?" Liam's soft voice broke through her reverie. He looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes still filled with an eagerness for life. In that moment, all the weight of her worry crumbled for a heartbeat. But then reality surged back, a reminder of their impending fate. "I'm here, my love," she replied, forcing a smile, though it felt more like a blanket over a storm. In the days that followed, the chapel became a focal point of both unity and division. Villagers whispered fervently, sharing stories of healings and otherworldly encounters. Some claimed visions of angels guiding them, while others grew wary, insisting these were illusions. Clara felt caught in a web of whispers, longing for certainty but unsure where to find it. While kneeling in prayer one evening, she noticed her friend Esther nearby, a woman known for her unwavering faith. "Esther," Clara called out softly, "do you think we're losing our way? These miracles, they stir my heart but leave me questioning everything." Esther turned to her, tears glistening in her eyes. "Doubt can be a bridge or a wall, my dear. It's up to us to decide how we walk over it. Sometimes miracles come with trials, not just answers." Her words hung in the air like the scent of incense, heavy with meaning. The community's interactions with the divine transformed as they grappled with their beliefs. Some spoke in hushed tones about Clara's grief, offering her solace, while others pointed fingers, uncertain of what to make of the priestess' messages. Still, Clara felt a spark within. Could this be part of something bigger unfolding? That very night, Clara found herself back at the chapel, joined by others seeking solace. As she scanned the dimly lit space, a commotion arose. Clapping echoed in the dim light. A child had received a vision, they claimed, of a radiant figure promising healing. With her heart racing, Clara moved toward the center. "Is this true?" she whispered. The child, his eyes alight, nodded earnestly. "I saw him. He told me miracles are for everyone, but we must open our hearts." Words echoed around the chapel as Clara felt a warmth rise within her, igniting a fierce longing to trust again. Approaching the altar, she knelt once more, the overwhelming weight of expectation pressing against her soul. "Lord, grant me strength to accept your will," she breathed out as she surrendered her fears. A gentle breeze danced through the chapel, sending chills down her spine. It felt as if unseen hands wrapped around her, comforting and reassuring. In that moment, divine resonance filled the air, a tangible energy everyone felt. Clara could see it in her neighbor's eyes, the flicker of hope rekindled. The wavering faith that had threatened to consume her began shining anew, as if the chapel itself breathed life into their collective spirit. Yet beneath that awakening lay an unsettling question: were they truly ready to embrace the unknown God was presenting? Clara sensed that their faith, now invigorated, would soon face an even greater trial, one that would stretch their hearts beyond anything they could imagine. What was God preparing them for? What lay beyond the horizon of miracles? Clara stood, determined but anxious, ready for the next steps on this divine journey. The promise of revelation lingered in the air, and Clara could only wonder, what would it take to fully step into the light of those promised miracles? The next morning, Clara awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun poured warmth into her room, casting soft patterns on the walls. Yet, instead of comforting her, the golden light filled her with questions. What was brewing deep within her spirit? What transformations lay ahead for herself and the villagers? After breakfast, she took Liam's hand, and together they made their way toward the chapel. The stillness of the day was punctuated by the sound of birds singing, the notes carrying a sense of peace. Each step felt heavy with anticipation, as if the ground beneath her was a threshold to something divine. Upon entering the chapel, Clara was greeted by a mix of familiar faces, some joyful, others burdened by doubt. A few gathered in clusters, sharing their stories with excited whispers, while others sat in contemplation, wrestling with their emotions. Clara felt the weight of their concerns pressing against her, yet something in the air felt different. A thin veil of spiritual expectancy hung over them all. There, in the embrace of the sacred space, she found Esther again. Her friend stood near the altar, gazing upward as though awaiting a sign. Clara approached, drawn by the familiar aura of faith that surrounded her. "Esther, what do you feel? Has God shown you anything today?" Esther looked at her with a sacred radiance. "I believe we're on the brink of something magnificent, Clara. God has been speaking in the silence. It's a call to action, to rise above our doubts and embrace His promises." Clara felt her heart race. It was as though Esther had ignited a spark that had been flickering inside her. But how do we do that? How can we move beyond just believing to truly embracing these miracles? "Through trust, dear friend," Esther replied, her voice steady and calm. "Trust transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. If we surrender our questions, our fears, we invite God to break through the very fabric of our lives." As they spoke, more villagers began to crowd into the chapel. Some seemed hesitant, their faces etched with skepticism, while others radiated an infectious excitement. A soft wind brushed through the open doors, stirring the candles on the altar. Clara closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply. The atmosphere seemed thick with possibility. Then, suddenly, a voice interrupted the whispers. A man stood at the front, his eyes gleaming with fervor. "Brothers and sisters, I sense God's presence among us today. A divine call to heal our hearts and to extend compassion as we embrace His light. We become vessels of His miracles." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Clara felt a swell of hope. Perhaps this was the moment they had all been waiting for. But as she looked around, she saw signs of struggle on familiar faces. Would they truly be willing to shed their doubts? Would they step forward to embrace the promises of faith? As Clara opened her heart to the moment, the flickering light of the candles transformed into a comforting glow, enveloping everyone. The whispers intensified, voices blending in a beautiful harmony of praise and yearning. "I don't know how, but I want to believe," Clara whispered, her hands clasped in prayer. Something powerful had surged within her, propelling her forward, igniting a desire to share this light. Esther reached out, linking arms with Clara and several others who stood nearby. "Together, we shall rise. Whatever trials lie ahead shall only strengthen our bonds. We will witness miracles, not just for ourselves but for our entire community." With newfound unity, the villagers began to chant softly. Clara felt tears of joy welling in her eyes as hope flooded over the gathering. They were ready to defy their doubts, to trust in the light that was slowly, surely, breaking through. Yet, beneath the unfolding embrace of brotherhood and sisterhood, a voice echoed in Clara's heart, filled with mystery. What awaited them on this path of faith? What tests would come as they moved closer to God's promises? As the chant grew louder, Clara realized they stood at the precipice of a renewal. But, deep inside, she felt an unsettling twist. Could they sustain this faith? Could they withstand the trials yet to come? With her heart brimming with expectation, she posed the question that lingered unspoken among them all: are we truly prepared to accept the depth of God's miracles? As their voices joined in a harmonious crescendo, the answer seemed just out of reach, shimmering like a beacon in the distance, waiting to guide them further along their divine journey. What awaited them beyond that horizon? As the final notes of their chant lingered in the air, the chapel resonated with an otherworldly calm. A hush fell over the gathered souls, a sacred stillness that felt thick with promise and potential. Clara opened her eyes and looked around, noticing the light glimmering in the eyes of those who had dared to hope. But her heart beat with both excitement and trepidation. "What more must we do, Lord?" she silently prayed. The answer hung like mist in the air, just beyond her grasp, as if the divine was ready to reveal deeper truths but required their collective surrender first. Then, the man who had spoken earlier stepped forward again. With a countenance filled with passion, he shared stories of the miracles that had once transformed lives in their village. "There was a time," he began, voice steady and fervent, "when our remedies seemed so small before the hardships we faced. But when we turned to God, our acts of faith became vessels for His grace." Each tale breathed new life into their spirits, urging them to believe. Clara felt an inexplicable connection to their past, an unbroken thread woven through generations that whispered, "You are part of this tapestry of faith." Her pulse quickened as she recognized her role in carrying this legacy of hope forward. With each story, she felt a nudge in her heart, a push to step beyond her comfort zone. "Lord, help me to be brave," she murmured, eyes cast down. Esther squeezed her hand, a knowing encouragement that broke through Clara's self-doubt. "You are not alone in this. Listen to the whispers of joy stirring among us. Isn't it beautiful to consider that every miracle we speak of is alive and breathing within us right now?" Clara nodded, the words filling her with a warmth that chased away the chill of uncertainty. They had set the stage for something more than just a gathering. They were on the verge of igniting a movement of faith. Soon, Clara saw faces nodding, eyes brightening, as they began to rise from their seats, one by one. The air buzzed with anticipation as people stood, ready to proclaim their intentions to step into the light. "Let us share our burdens," Another voice rang out, one Clara recognized as Anna, a woman often weighed down by her struggles. I want to unburden my heart. I want to lay down my fears before God. A gentle wave of support flowed through the congregation, nods and affirmations weaving a tapestry of love and community. Feeling emboldened, Clara stepped forward, allowing her vulnerability to pour forth. Me too. I wish to lay down my doubts and fears. I want to believe in what we can accomplish together. The rest followed her lead, voices rising in a sweet symphony of confessions and declarations, beauty spilled forth in their raw openness. Each admission was wrapped in acceptance, each promise was a testament of trust in divine possibility. As the atmosphere around them thickened with fervent prayers, a palpable energy surged through the chapel. The flickering candles flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows on the walls, as if the entire universe held its breath, waiting for something significant to unfold. Then, a low rumble, almost like thunder, echoed in the distance. Clara turned her head toward the sound, anxiety bubbling within her. Was this a sign? Just as suddenly as it arrived, the noise transformed into a gentle whispering wind that breezed through the chapel. Clara felt it touch her skin, sending chills down her spine. This is just the beginning, she thought, a flicker of hope igniting within her. God is preparing something miraculous. As the whispers of the wind began to tug at her spirit, Clara closed her eyes again, surrendering to the profound mystery that enveloped them. The air vibrated with God's promise. She could feel it deep in her bones. In that instant, she understood, every miracle requires a leap of faith to bridge the impossible. Could they truly embrace the depth of what awaited them? As they stood with hearts wide open, ready to bear witness to the extraordinary, one question emerged from the depths of their collective spirit. What would be the first miracle they would uncover together? The energy pulsed in the room, like a heartbeat, matching the rhythm of Clara's own racing pulse. She sensed it, a divine current weaving through their gathering. Each breath they took was laden with expectation, with hopes and longings intertwined like the tendrils of ivy that crept up the chapel walls. Clara opened her eyes, taking in the heartfelt expressions around her. Faces that had borne the weight of doubt now shimmered with the possibility of change. She could feel the collective trust rising, mounting like a wave, ready to crash upon the shore of eternity. In this moment, she realized that they were no longer isolated souls but a unified body, bound by faith and purpose. All of this, she thought, is for more than just us. It was for those who had gone before them and for those yet to come. With a deep breath, she spoke out, her voice steady and clear, "Let us not dwell on the past but look forward to what God has in store for us. Let us open our hearts wide to receive His blessings." A soft murmur of agreement flowed through the crowd, igniting a spark of enthusiasm. Esther beamed, her eyes shining with pride. Clara's heart swelled as she glanced at Anna, whose face bore a blend of resolve and vulnerability. "Together, we can step into the light," she declared. The wind outside swirled fiercely, a dance echoing the energy within. It felt as if the very elements recognized the shift in the chapel and celebrated with them. The air grew thicker with anticipation, electrifying with an unseen force that tingled against their skin. Just then, the man who had shared the stories earlier stepped forward again, a fierce light in his eyes. "Friends," he proclaimed, "it is time to honor our collective faith. Let us make a promise today. A promise to seek God with all that we have, to trust in His purposes, and to act with love. Each of us has the strength to be a vessel of His grace. Are you with me?" A rising chorus of yes erupted from the congregation, each affirmation louder than the last. Clara could feel the weight of their commitment, a bond of hope linking their souls. "We are more than conquerors," she whispered inwardly, the scripture flashing through her mind like a guiding star. Suddenly, a soft, golden light poured into the chapel, illuminating the faces of her fellow believers. It cascaded over them like a warm embrace, and Clara instinctively raised her arms, welcoming the divine presence. It was tangible, a palpable reminder of God's love enveloping them all. In that holy moment, Clara was struck by the enormity of their undertaking. She knew the path ahead would be challenging, doubts might creep in again, just as they always had. But in this shared commitment to faith, she saw a flicker of hope igniting within each heart. What if we reached out to those who feel lost? Clara suggested, her voice strong amidst the brilliance around them. The thoughts flowed freely, each idea bouncing off the walls like echoes of faith. What if we offered our love to those in pain? What if we became the hands and feet of Jesus right here in our village? Those words lingered in the air, igniting fresh vigor and purpose. The room brimmed with passionate conviction, as each individual envisioned their potential to be conduits of divine love. Clara felt invincible, filled with tears of joy. They were on the brink of something incredible, a movement that could transcend their small community. Yet, under all the excitement, a reminder lingered in Clara's heart, like a whispered secret. But what if, in our act of faith, we discover more than we could ever expect? As the gathered souls reached for the stars, a new question fueled their passion: what transformational purpose would God unveil next? The golden light wrapped around them, a gentle reminder of the power that gathered in faith. As Clara looked around, she saw tears glistening in the eyes of many. They were tears of longing, of hope, and of the unshakable belief that change was indeed possible. Esther stepped forward, her hands clasped together, as if holding something precious. "I feel it, Clara," she spoke, her voice soft yet firm. "This is not just a movement. It's a calling from God. We are to bring light into the corners where it's most needed." "A calling," Clara echoed, her heart racing with this new insight. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. What did it mean for their small community? What would it look like to answer such a calling? Anna, who had been listening intently, raised her voice. "But what if we stumble?" she asked, vulnerability threading through her words. "What if we fail?" A hush fell over the group, like a gentle wave lapping on the shore. Clara felt the tension. She understood Anna's fear. They had been through so much, battling their unseen demons. But faith was not the absence of fear, it was the embrace of hope in spite of it. "All of us stumble, Anna," Clara responded, her voice rising again, emboldened by a surge of conviction. "But God's grace is sufficient. Our stumbling is part of the journey. Each misstep could lead someone to witness a miracle. We will not be perfect, but we can be willing vessels." Around her, nods of agreement stirred like leaves in a breeze. A tremor of strength rippled through the group. This was the moment they would allow their hearts to lead them, trusting in the divine power that had gathered them. The man who had first ignited their spirits stepped forward again, his presence electrifying. "What if you shared your stories?" he asked, his eyes scanning the eager faces. "What if your struggles, your victories, became a testimony to others? We all have stories that matter. They could inspire so many." Clara felt the challenge ignite within her. She pictured her own journey, the moments of darkness that had taught her resilience, the times when she felt utterly lost but found her way back through faith. "Yes," Clara exclaimed, fueled by the rising energy in the room. "Our stories are not just ours. They are threads in the tapestry of His plan. We must share them openly, for someone else might be waiting to hear exactly what we have lived through. And in sharing, we create connections. We become bridges of hope." A ripple of excitement coursed through the congregation, as individuals began whispering ideas to one another. What if they hosted evenings of sharing their journeys? What if prayer groups formed, centered around real-life experiences? The golden light shimmered brighter, growing in intensity, as though it was responding to their faith. Clara felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over her. Perhaps this was what God had in store, the coming together of hearts, creating a powerful current of love in their community. But as she sighed with contentment, a new thought nudged at her consciousness, a question that lingered just at the edge of her mind. Was this the only path they were meant to take? When the hour came to close their gathering, Clara felt a soft whisper in her heart. What if there were more journeys to embark on? What if their faith could inspire changes far beyond what they could imagine? The night air was cool as they stepped outside, and the stars twinkled above like affirmations of their commitment. The dear community around her felt more alive than ever, ready to make an impact. Yet Clara couldn't shake that question: where would the next steps lead them, and what divine surprises lay waiting around the corner? As Clara stepped into the cool night, The stars twinkled brightly above, like tiny beacons of divine promise. She could feel the warmth of the gathering lingering in her heart. Each heartbeat echoed with possibility. They had shared their burdens that night, and in doing so, the weight felt lighter. Hope was their inheritance, and faith their guide. The group slowly dispersed, leaving Clara and Esther standing together. "Do you truly believe we can change lives?" Clara asked softly, holding on to the lingering light of the moment. Esther nodded, her eyes glimmering with conviction. "Absolutely. We may start small, but each act of sharing, each moment of honesty creates ripples. God uses even the smallest stones to make waves." Clara took a deep breath, visualizing the ripple effect. Seats around tables filled with hungry souls yearning for testimony, a space where struggles would be met with acceptance and understanding. She shivered at the thought. But what of her own journey? Did she have the courage to reveal her truth? Suddenly she felt a tug at her heart. What if we actually listened, Esther? Like really listened to each other? Beyond the stories, beneath the surface. That's where the real healing begins, don't you think? Esther smiled, her face illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby lamplight. That is the essence of community, dear Clara. True understanding strides hand in hand with vulnerability. It brings us closer to his heart. As they walked, Clara imagined a gathering that went deeper than mere words, where walls came down, and souls joined in brave authenticity. Their community deserved that. Would they be ready to bear one another's burdens freely? Meanwhile, other voices drifted in from the gathering's aftermath. Young couples talked excitedly about children and dreams. Older members shared laughter that spoke of wisdom earned through years. The layers of life intertwined, creating a rich fabric of existence, a community woven by God's hand. But yet, a stillness fell over Clara's heart, the haunting question returning. Maybe there was a deeper purpose they hadn't fully grasped. What more did God want from them, and what extraordinary call awaited? That week, they met again, and this time Clara could feel an electric anticipation. She stood before the larger group, her palms clammy but her spirits soaring. Tonight, let us not just share our stories. Let us open our hearts. Who knows what revelation awaits us? One by one, voices emerged. Some were trembling, but the truth spilled out like a stream of water eager to nourish the parched earth. They shared stories of despair, but also of miraculous hope. The presence of God wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Then, unexpectedly, a newcomer stepped forward. Her name was Lila, a woman with eyes like ocean waves, deep, turbulent, yet somehow inviting. "I've not felt worthy to share my struggles," she said, her voice trembling. "But I'm beginning to understand that even the broken pieces are part of the whole." Clara's heart raced. That spirit, fragile yet brave, spoke of the very essence of their mission. Lila reminded them all that they were never alone in their wounds. There was something powerful about being vulnerable, about laying bare one's soul to those who shared the same divine breath. The atmosphere shifted. Clara recognized it. This was the pivotal moment where fear surrendered to faith. Here, at this crossroads of comfort and risk, they were on the cusp of transformation. Yet still, Clara could not shake the question seated in her heart. Was this what God intended? Or was this merely the beginning of a much grander plan? As they wrapped up the evening, a whisper coursed through her, almost tangible. The next step is waiting. What would be required of them next? What bold new territory awaited this community of faith? The following week arrived with a promise of change, and Clara could feel it vibrating in the air. She arrived early, anticipation thrumming in her chest. She set up the chairs, each one a symbol of how they would gather together, hearts and lives intertwined. The light of dawn was a gentle reminder of new beginnings, and Clara closed her eyes, welcoming it. As friends trickled in, conversations buzzed like bees around blooming flowers. Clara caught snippets of laughter, stories lighting up weary faces. Then Lila walked in, her presence a soft wave that washed over the room. Clara could see it too, the spark of courage in her eyes was infectious. "Thanks for coming," Clara said, her voice steady. "Tonight feels different. Let us embrace whatever reveals itself." Lila nodded, and soon others arrived, a mix of familiar and new faces. Esther took her usual spot, a warm smile illuminating her features. They shared smiles and glances, a collective breath before the dive into authenticity. Clara wanted them to know, this wasn't just a meeting, it was sacred ground. They began to share again, stories intertwining like threads weaving a tapestry. But this time, something new unfolded. The deeper stories emerged. A woman spoke of loss, a man of redemption, each tale peeling back layers of the heart to reveal the sacred underneath. "Let us not be afraid of the dark," said Lila, her voice steady and unwavering. "Darkness can illuminate the stars, and those stars are our stories." Clara felt the resonance of those words, pulsing through the gathering. It was as if they were stepping closer to recognizing the divine light within their struggles. Lila's vulnerability had sparked something not just in her but in everyone around them. As they listened to one another, Clara was overwhelmed with gratitude. Each story felt like a stepping stone towards healing, and each shared truth opened new avenues of understanding. God's presence enveloped the room, warmth radiating as if he were leaning in, pouring his grace like golden light over them. The gathering reached a crescendo when, from the back of the room, an elderly gentleman named Benjamin stood up. His voice trembled but was filled with wisdom. "I've seen the sun set many times, yet I understand now, every sunset brings a dawn. My life has been dark, too, but each struggle taught me to seek the light." A hush fell over the room, the weight of his experience resting gently on everyone's shoulders. They were enraptured, absorbing every word as if it were nectar for their souls. Clara felt her heart swell. This community was alive with the breath of vulnerability, each whisper a song of faith. "Tonight, we aren't just sharing stories," she said brokenly, overwhelmed. "We're crafting connections that bridge our pain with His love. Let us deepen this, and let His light reflect even more." In that moment, they decided to pray together, an offering into the sacred space they had created. Clara could almost see the warmth of their collective intentions ascend like incense, reaching heavenward. The moment felt like a turning point, and an undeniable truth emerged. They were not seeking answers but embracing questions, acknowledging the whole journey of faith. Suddenly, Clara sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a whispering call echoing beyond their circle. What was that divine invitation stirring just outside their awareness? As the evening drew to a close, she looked around the room. Each face wore a glow of hope, yet beneath it, an unmarked anticipation grew stronger. What treasure awaited them in their next gathering? What shadows would they choose to confront, hand in hand, as they followed their call? The next step awaited them, like a door half open, inviting them in. What awaited on the other side? The new week dawned, shrouded in a mist of anticipation. Clara felt it deep within her soul, a kindling of hope that crackled like firewood in the stillness. She prepared the meeting space with care, arranging each chair with love, imagining the stories that would soon fill the air. This gathering would delve deeper, just as the roots of a mighty tree stretch further into the earth. They were meant to grow together. As faces began to appear, there was a tangible energy, a warmth that enveloped the room. Lila arrived with a sunbeam smile, radiating assurance. Clara noticed how her spirit shone, lighting a spark for others to follow. "Isn't it beautiful?" Clara said, gesturing to the flickering candles that painted soft shadows on the walls. "We're becoming something remarkable together." Esther whispered words of encouragement as she settled in next to Lila, and a few hesitant newcomers stood at the doorway. Clara extended her hand, inviting them in, reminding each one that this was a safe place. Tonight was not just about sharing, it was about exploration. The stories started to flow again, but this time Clara felt a deeper current beneath the surface. A man named David shared his battle with addiction, recounting the day he chose the path towards recovery. His voice trembled, but with each word, Clara could sense the weight lifting. "Finding my way back to the light wasn't easy," he said, glancing at the group. "But in the darkest of times, I found God pulling me up, reminding me I was never alone." Those words ignited something within the circle. A ripple of connection surged, hearts drawing closer. Clara could almost hear the heartbeat of the community, as they embraced vulnerability together, each story a shining torch illuminating the shadows of fear. Lila spoke up again, her voice gentle yet powerful. You know, fear is like a fog. It can cloud our vision. But God doesn't He leave us in the fog, He calls us forth. Let us choose to walk through it together. As they shared their experiences, a sacred alchemy began to brew. Clara noticed tears in Esther's eyes, glistening like jewels, while others nodded, their own burdens evident on their faces. It was as if a veil had been drawn aside, allowing sacred truths to fill the air like incense. And then, in that holy space, Clara felt a burst of inspiration. Tonight, let us not just reflect. Let us act. How can we carry this light into our lives? The room buzzed with ideas. Some proposed acts of kindness for neighbors, while others envisioned community events. The excitement rose, the atmosphere electric with possibilities. Clara's heart danced as everyone delved into the motivation to manifest love in their everyday lives. But then, the unexpected happened. An unsettling thought swept over Clara. A flicker of doubt began to intrude. What if they fell back into old patterns? What if their commitment waned? She decided to keep those thoughts quiet for now, focusing instead on the palpable presence of God in the room. They concluded their gathering with a moment of silent reflection. Clara could sense something profound washing over them, a collective yearning for strength. As they bowed their heads, Clara felt the weight of divine promise hovering, urging them to trust the journey ahead. What would this newfound inspiration lead to? As the evening closed and they began to say their goodbyes, Clara held on to the hope swirling in her heart. This was just the beginning, a journey unfolding before them, one filled with potential and divine surprises. What awaited when they returned next week? Would they discover the courage to confront the fears that haunted them? The whisper of promise lingered, hinting at a greater revelation on the horizon. With each passing week, St. Michael's Hollow transformed, becoming a sanctuary of hope and renewal. Clara, pulsing with purpose, felt the divine spark within her and the community, as they prepared to face whatever came next. What would it look like to walk boldly into the unknown? On a crisp evening, the villagers gathered again in the chapel. The air thrummed with anticipation, voices weaving together like threads in a divine tapestry. Clara took her spot at the front, heart racing as she sensed a familiar yet potent presence, the sacredness enveloping them. Tonight is a culmination of everything we've shared, she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. We've wrestled with doubt, laid bare our struggles, and ignited a movement of love. But what if we dare to take our journey one step further? What if? The words lingered, echoing in unison as the realization struck. They could not merely share experiences, they must now step into action, inviting God's promises to manifest among them. Sister Anna, her face illuminated, stood. Let us reach out beyond our walls. This love we've found should spill into the streets and echo in every lonely heart. A chorus of agreement rippled through the crowd, fire igniting in their eyes. Together, they began to brainstorm a vision of outreach materializing. Clara felt the warmth of God's presence seep into her very marrow, urging them on. What if we started by inviting others to our next gathering? Lila suggested, eyes shimmering with excitement. Let us fill this chapel with those who need hope, those who feel lost just like we once did. Yes, Clara exclaimed, her spirit soaring. They shared ideas like fragrant petals, ideas blooming in the depths of their hearts. They would reach out to the sick, the broken, the weary. Let us host a community breakfast. Esther chimed in, her enthusiasm palpable. No one should feel alone. And we can weave our stories into the fabric of their lives, illuminating their paths with the light of faith. As the plans unfolded, Clara could feel ripples of divine energy coursing around the chapel. They weren't just becoming a community, they were morphing into vessels of hope. She could see it in their faces, the clarity, purpose, and illumination were alive among them. When the evening came to its natural pause with a breath of prayer, a soft wind breathed through the open doors, surrounding them in a gentle embrace. Clara closed her eyes, surrendering her fears and the weight of her own worries, feeling the warmth of unity binding them together. Let us trust the journey ahead, she whispered as they bowed their heads. Open our hearts to whatever you have next, Lord. A profound silence filled the room, the space pregnant with anticipation. And then, in the gentle stillness, they received a gift. A flicker of divine insight descended, settling upon Clara. "Clara!" shouted Benjamin, his voice breaking the tranquility, eyes wide with inspiration. "We must not hide our gifts anymore. Each of us carries a unique light. What if we created a festival of testimonies?" Gasps rippled through the crowd, eyes sparkling with promise. A festival, a gathering not just for them, but for everyone in St. Michael's Hollow and beyond. Yes. A festival where all are invited to share their testimonies, a space of heartfelt connection. It's time to shine. Clara's voice resonated, vibrant and affirming. With heads held high, they set their hearts toward this divine calling. Each member took responsibility, excitedly offering their strengths. Songs would be sung, stories shared, and a communal meal woven together, filling every soul in attendance with warmth and love. Days turned into weeks, as they worked tirelessly, infused with faith and purpose, the vision materializing before their very eyes. The advertised festival became a beacon, sending waves through the community as word spread. They invited those who had left the faith, those who felt at odds with God, and those simply seeking connection. On the day of the festival, Clara stood before the chapel, now adorned with colorful banners, vibrant flowers, and tables overflowing with food. The sun shone brightly, illuminating the joyful faces of friends and neighbors. As the crowd gathered, a palpable energy filled the space. Clara looked around, heart warmed by the sight of hope rekindled across so many hearts. Each person, a testament of grace, had come to witness something extraordinary. She took a deep breath, her voice ringing clear over the murmur. "Welcome! Today, we share our stories, not as individuals but as a glorious tapestry of His love. Together, we rise as one." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers, music echoed through the air, and stories were shared, each one a thread woven into the larger narrative of faith and redemption. Laughter mixed with tears. How beautiful it was to be vulnerable together. But as the festival continued, Clara experienced a divine moment of clarity. She saw their collective strength, the way God shone through each testimony. Right there, amidst the joy, she realized, this was just the beginning. They had become a living testament, showing others the power of sharing burdens, transcending fears, and diving into the depths of faith together. As dusk began to settle over St. Michael's Hollow, Clara stood before the community, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you for stepping into the light. We are called to live boldly, to share His love and grace with every soul we encounter. Let's not let this be a one-time thing. Let us keep the fire alive." A thunderous cheer erupted, and as she looked around, Clara felt the overwhelming embrace of God's presence. It had been a day of miracles, the beginning of a journey towards fulfilling their heavenly purpose. As the night deepened, stars twinkled above like leaders of light, guiding them onward. Clara's heart soared. She knew that as they continued to walk in faith, even greater miracles awaited them on the horizon. And with that truth, she knew to embrace their stories and each other, to leap into the unexpected, and to trust in the divine unfolding of their purpose. Now, dear friends, here's where your journey can take flight. You need to subscribe now to our channel to experience every upcoming exclusive faith story, unfolding divine revelations just like this one. Leave a like right now if this story fueled your spirit. Your engagement helps others find the light too. Comment below and share your thoughts or testimonies with us. Let's lift each other in encouragement. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this manifestation of hope. Together, we are sparking a brighter world, one story at a time.